NXT took place tonight in Houston, Texas at 713 Music Hall. This was the first episode of NXT to take place outside of the Performance Center this year. So tonight was marketed as Booker T Appreciation Night. We see his arrival in Houston, and then we see Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame also arriving, which was a giveaway that they were going to be the main event tonight. So Ruka kicked off the show, then Zarya came out, and then Jacy Jayne made her entrance as part of Fatal Influence alongside Fallon Henley, who was defending her NXT Women's Speed Championship tonight, and Lainey Reed. We have our NXT Women's Championship defending a triple threat match, Jacy Jayne defending against Sol Ruka and Zarya. Fans were fully behind Sol Ruka. There was a Tower of Doom spot, and it was pretty good to start off. There was a botch by Sol on a cartwheel to the outside. So at the end of the match, Zarya stopped Sol from pinning Jacy after she hit the Soul Snatcher. She pulled her out of the ring. Then she hit the F5 on Sol on the outside, but then she throws her back in the ring. However, she couldn't capitalize because she was then attacked by Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed. Zarya fought them off, but before she could get back in the ring, Jacy pinned Sol 1-2-3. So Jacy wins, LOL. Shawn Michaels, his infatuation continues with this woman. I rant about this every week. I have nothing left to say. Hopefully her reign doesn't last too much longer. Kendall Gray was talking to Ren Sinclair backstage. She was upset with Charlie Dempsey when he walked by. He's with his new group, Birthrights. Then Lola walks in and says nobody's stopping her from winning the championship at Stand and Deliver, so she was kind of calling out Kendall, who also wants to go after the NXT Women's Championship. Ricky Starks was heading to the ring for another horrible promo. I still can't get over that one he had with Joe Hendry a while ago. That was so bad. So Ricky Starks was out. He says some shit, and then Ethan Page comes out. They begin to argue. This writing crew sucks. They had this blood feud last year. Now they're like best friends. It fucking sucks. They say Joe Hendry's name. He appears. They attack Joe, but Joe fights him off. However, he's attacked by Tony D'Angelo. Tony then drops Saints and Page, so the Dawn stands tall to end this. I wouldn't mind Tony D'Angelo being the sole challenger at this point. I'm so sick of Ricky Starks, and I'm not too high on Ethan Page anymore. I'd like to see Tony D'Angelo even get a run with the championship. I really wouldn't mind it. We got an NXT focus on William Regal and Fit Finlay, and this was a backstage segment from last week. Both the legends were giving motivation to the new group, which is Birthright, and then Regal talks to Robert Stone. He wants him to be the permanent GM of NXT, and says he'll go talk to Shawn Michaels about it. So they never tell us if William Regal still has this major on-screen role or this major backstage role. It's never mentioned, but he did endorse Robert Stone here. And Robert Stone, I think, is an improvement over the previous GM, but I just feel like they give him way too much TV time. It's not his fault. It's just the GM doesn't need to have 8 segments every week, Sean. Why is there so many segments backstage with the GM? There only needs to be 2 to 3. That's it. I would prefer to just be 1 or 2. You don't need, he is the star of the show, and that's why the show has gone better, because he's not that good, but he's so much better than the previous GM, and she was the star of the show, basically. She got more screen time every week than anyone else, and she was fucking horrible, and that's what dragged the show down for, the last year. But Robert Stone is there's just too much with the GM. I hate the writing. The writing is the biggest issue. The show sometimes is good in spite of the writing. Shawn Michaels is definitely the biggest problem with the show. He's horrible. With the better writers, the show would be a lot better. So then we had a 6-man tag team match. We had Vanity Project against the Americanos. Okay, I'll be honest. I purposely watched the show on delay at this point to skip this fucking match. The Americanos won. I don't give a fuck. So Robert Stone was talking to Ilya LaFleur when Sean Legacy announced that he was out of the tag tournament with a leg injury, and he needs a new his partner needs someone else to team with them, and it's going to be Ilya LaFleur. So Sean Legacy is out, and then after they leave, Sol Ruka walks in, and she doesn't want to match Zarya next week, but she wants to confront her in the ring. So I guess we're going to have a major segment between the two of them. We had Booker T Appreciation Night, which was what the show was really built around in many ways. So Vic Joseph was in the ring with 2 of Booker's students and his family, including Queen Sharmell. Booker gets a nice ovation as he gets in the ring from the announce booth. They go to a video that was played with multiple former big names paying tribute to him. Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin were in it. And then you had Stephanie Vaquer and Trick Williams both thanking Booker T for getting them over, basically, which is what he did. You know, both of them really owe a debt of gratitude to Booker, and I'm glad they were both featured because with Trick Williams, Booker's the one who did the whoop that trick, and that really got Trick over. That was definitely the biggest thing he had. It was definitely the entrance. And that's carried over to the main roster. And for Stephanie Vaquer, the Devil's Kiss, him doing the and it got it over with the fans, and it got really over on the main roster. And that's why Stephanie's really popular. It's that Devil's Kiss. You know, she's obviously very attractive, and that move, it just helps her. I just wish she didn't have a horrible theme song now. They would have kept her old theme song, but that's a different rant for a different time. Also, Roxanne Perez was there. She thanked him. She was trained by him, which was cool. It's the first time we've seen Roxanne in like, I don't know, a month, more than a month, almost a month and a half. I miss Roxanne. Then we went back to Booker. He was visibly emotional. Vic Joseph gave him a plaque for it being the appreciation night. And then Keanu Carver spoils the party. He beats up Booker's students. He's about to go after Booker, but then Jasper Troy made the save. This is his baby face turn. They want to push this guy for some reason. It's his face turn. And he took out Carver. And then the NXT roster came out and clapped for Booker, all of them giving him a standing ovation. Booker then says someone needs to do something to Carver to Robert Stone. I thought this was a good segment. I liked it. Nice feel-good segment. And I thought it really added to the show. It was the second best thing on the show besides the main event. But I thought this was really good. I really liked this a lot. Really nice tribute here, and I thought this was good. I don't give a shit about Keanu Carver. And I'm glad that was more brief. I was afraid they were going to have him beat up Booker. That's where I thought this was probably going to go. I don't give a shit about Keanu Carver, but I did like this tribute segment to Booker and definitely really deserves it. As I said, he's really gotten two people over with his commentary, Trick and Stephanie. We went back and we went to break, and then after that, Kendall, Gray, and Ren Sinclair in the ring, opposite of Fatal Influence. And we get our NXT Women's Speed Championship matchup, Fallon Henley defending her championship against Ren Sinclair. So it's her standard speed match. Ren submitted Fallon to win the Women's Speed Championship, so we have a new champion now. I thought this would go this way. Hopefully this is the end of Fatal Influence, and hopefully it's the end of JC Jane's title reign. I wasn't as upset that JC won when I saw Fallon lose. That means it tells me, alright, the end is near, hopefully, for her reign. So Ren Sinclair, your new NXT Women's Speed Champion. Kendall celebrated with her, and this was a cool moment here. New champion. So we had Ricky Saints and Ethan Page complaining to Robert Stone backstage. Just too much of Robert Stone. Too many GM segments. Ricky sucks, by the way. He's awful right now. They're upset with Tony D. Then the GM makes Ricky Saints against Tony D'Angelo next week. Hank and Tank are out next. After the break, Birthright result, we got a tag team tournament match. Birthright against Hank and Tank. Birthright get the win. And then we see backstage Joe Hendry complaining to Robert Stone, another fucking segment, that he wants to face Tony D next week. He can't because he's already booked in a match. Then we go to see Dark State jumping OTM in the back near the parking lot. I thought the show was a bit underwhelming so far. I just really like the Booker T stuff. The women's triple threat kind of was underwhelming to me, especially with who won. And then we go backstage. Thea Hale is giving Tina Paxley confidence ahead of her match. And then Kalani Jordan walks in. She kind of demeans Thea, but then tries to recruit her to take her under the ring. Jada Parker walks in, stands up to Kalani, and then it's set up for Thea against Kalani next week. Then Fallon Henley is upset with JC Jane after her title loss. Hopefully, it's the end of JC's reign. Robert Stone talks to Joe Hendry in the back. There's going to be a gauntlet match next week. And then Lex King also wants a shot. Sexy Red will be at Stand and Deliver. Don't care. Izzy Dame is up next with a culling. And then we go to a break. They preview next week's show. And then Tatum Paxley came out for the main event. And we get our NXT Women's North American Championship defended in a steel cage match. Tatum Paxley defends her title against Izzy Dame. So Izzy attacks Tatum right before the bell even rang, and she beat her up on the outside, threw her into the cage a few times. And then Izzy brought in the chair into the ring right when the match officially started. So Izzy got the heat on Tatum for a while. I like how they used the cage. She kicked her into the cage. They're really utilizing a lot more than sometimes you would see on main roster matches. So then Tatum climbs to the top of the cage. She's about to get out, but Izzy catches up to her, and then they both fight on top of the cage. I love it. They're doing kind of dueling strikes on top of the cage, and it kind of always gets me nervous because I'm sure they're safe, but one slippage, they their body shifts one way and they can fall to the ground. It can be really catastrophic. But they did. I like the brawl on top of the cage, and it worked really well here. I thought they utilized the cage well. Izzy then hit a superplex on to Tatum, and it was a superplex, not like a steel cage superplex. It's like she's standing on the top turnbuckle, and Tatum's legs are on top of the cage. So it's like a bigger than usual superplex. So then they, as I said, they used the cage really well, and I thought this was a hell of a match right there. Then Izzy introduces the chair. She attacks Tatum with the chair. She powerbombs Tatum into the cage, but then Tatum reverses. She hits a code red onto the chair, kind of like a pop-up powerbomb. And then she would hit the cemetery drive for the win. Definitely the highlight of the night. Really good matchup here. I did prefer their match at Vengeance Day a little bit more. I thought that was more exciting. Here it got kind of sloppy near the end of the match, but I still thought it was a really good cage match, a really solid matchup. Tatum Paxley wins. She wins the feud, and credits to Izzy Dame having this feud. She had 2 really good matches with Tatum. Tatum's really good in the ring, one of the better ones in NXT, perhaps the best in-ring worker on NXT right now. She's really delivered now in terms of the woman, of course. Hell of a matchup. She wins, and then she's celebrating. Her mom was actually watching her, Tatum's mom. But then as she's up on the ramp, someone comes from under the ramp, and it's Blake Monroe. She drags Tatum under the ramp, and then she poses with the belt to end the show. So Blake Monroe going back after the NXT Women's North American Championship against Tatum Paxley. That'll be the next feud. I think Blake should be going for the NXT Women's Championship, but I ran about that every week. She should be in the position JC's in. The stuff really annoys me with Shawn Michaels. NXT succeeds sometimes in spite of Shawn Michaels. He's really a bad booker. But that was the show this week in Houston. The first show was at the Performance Center. Next week they're back in the PC. Then they're in 2 weeks they're in New York City at the theater at Madison Square Garden. So that's going to be a big show. But overall, I thought NXT, a lot of it delivered. I thought it was more good than bad. Really liked the main event, liked the Booker T appreciation night, so that was good. And we'll see what NXT does as they're now on the road to Stand and Deliver, which is their biggest show of the year. It's going to be away from WrestleMania this year, and we'll see what NXT does on the road to Stand and Deliver.